Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
An over-the-top action game about cyborg ninja slicing up other cyborg ninjas in the Metal Gear Solid universe seems like a no-brainer to me, and I know good ideas when I hear them.
I mean, you all saw it. You're a robot with a mariachi costume ripping out a dude's spine. And now this is awesome, too. It's a wolf with a chainsaw tail. And look at that. It's like it's Fist of the North Star or something. This is rad. The game is visually striking, with no two areas being alike. The combat is fast and fluid, and the Zandatsu gimmick is constantly satisfying and never gets old. It reminds me of Quentin Tarantino directed Fruit Ninja, but replaced all the fruit with cyborgs. It even has that classic Metal Gear feel by the boss telling you their entire backstory right before you kill them. Well, hey there, Raiden. I had a rough childhood, and now I'm gonna tell you all about it.
Yeah, that's like really cool and stuff, but like, it's not gonna matter in like 4 minutes, maybe 5.
But that doesn't bother me even a little bit.
So yeah, it's a perfect game, right? 10 out of 10. People love the game are like, Tom C, you're a genius. People hate the game are like, Tom C, you're a moron. I am a moron. There's no question about that. That one's right. Those people are right. But it's not a perfect game either. I do have some complaints about it. Not a lot. Not a lot. Not a lot. But I'm going to go into them. I'm a 5th degree black belt in Honeste. It's got to be done to keep that belt. Before I do that, though, I want to give you a little bit of perspective. I want to show you a game that I think is my favorite in the genre.
Shinobi for the PlayStation 2. It was a remake of a classic franchise, and it's one of the games that I played a lot as a kid. A non-stop action game about a ninja fighting for revenge against a demon sorcerer who's possessed his entire clan. Or something like that. Story in these games are never very important, and even though Metal Gear Rising was totally nuts, it didn't get in the way of me having a good time. But whatever, it's certainly not a perfect game, but it's one of my favorites. It has like a 7.8 on Metacritic as a user score, and that reinforces my point that like 2.2% of all users could be used as like a biofuel or something like that.
But why am I even bringing this up, is what you're asking yourself. You are. Well, that's a good question. My point is, this game was not only fun to play, but it was challenging. It was really hard. And I happen to really like hard games. The reason for that is because it gives you something to try and overcome, which is important.
So let me clarify that a little bit while we fight this demon helicopter. The game is really challenging if you don't know what you're doing. You have this magic sword. Its name is Akujiki. It will kill you if you don't kill people fast enough, which is cool. But the thing about it is that if you kill somebody, your sword gets twice as strong for a short amount of time, and it doubles for each enemy you kill. So while this might not seem like a big deal, it adds a completely new element of skill and challenge to the game. Because your goal is no longer to just slash this dude until he dies, but rather to make combos and chain things up so you can kill these enemies in a single hit. Every boss in this game can be killed in a single hit, assuming you have the skill to do this right. And this leads me to Rising's biggest problem. The game isn't that replayable because...
Listen, I'm not trying to show off. This isn't like a wank or anything. I'm not like, I'm so great, yeah. For real, the game isn't that hard, and there's some pretty obvious reasons why.
This one's pretty small, but there is a customization system in the game. You can upgrade how strong your blade is, you can get new moves, you can get new costumes or whatever, but also you can upgrade how much health Raiden has. Raiden starts off being able to take a lot of hits, and so by the end of the game you could increase it by 30 or 40%, so the fear of death is kinda gone when you have that much health. You could say that it is my choice to make those upgrades and that I shouldn't do it if I want the game to be more challenging, but that's a dumb point and you should feel bad about that. This one might be a little bit more surprising to anyone who had trouble doing this in the game, but one of the reasons why this game is so easy is because you have the ability to parry attacks. When you parry an attack, it blocks and negates all damage, but also it sets you up for a huge attack that will do a ton of damage, or it sets you up for your blade time or whatever, which is great. It's really cool. It takes skill to hit it at just the right time, though it's pretty easy to hit, but it's still something that requires skill. The reason this is messed up is because when you miss your parry, the punishment you receive is, instead of a parry, you just block the attack. In Dark Souls, if you were to miss a parry, you would almost definitely be taking a hit. You would take damage and it would suck, and it'd be a punishment for not knowing how to parry correctly. In this game, there is no punishment for doing this, what should be a high-risk, high-reward maneuver, and failing. Other than that, you don't get to do the fun attack and have a bunch of fun. So whatever. If there was a punishment for missing a parry, it would make the game more exciting, but what happens when you have no punishment is it makes the game much easier, which is my point. But anyway. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to mention here, it's probably the most obvious one. So in this game you have something called Zandatsu, which is that thing I showed before where you can cut things up in any shape or size or whatever direction you want. It's really cool, it's super fun to do, and you're going to want to do it all the time. And the reason you're going to want to do it all the time is because if you cut out the enemy's core, which is usually denoted by a big square that's in red that says basically / here, you grab their core or whatever and you crush it. Which is cool, looks really cool. It's visually pleasing, it's satisfying to do, and it maybe gets repetitive to some people, but I'm used to repetitive things from Shinobi. It's still cool to me. But the problem with this is that every time you do this, you fully recover all of your blade meter or whatever, and all of your health. Every single time you do it. Which is all the time. Like, constantly. You're constantly doing it. Virtually every enemy who is not a boss, you can do this to. It shouldn't be too hard to see why that would make the game pretty easy.
So yeah, this makes the game pretty easy. But I'm not saying it's bad. Easy doesn't mean bad. It just maybe reduces replayability for me, but for a lot of people this might be pretty encouraging.
Honestly, I only have really one other complaint. Metal Gear games are known for long cutscenes and for long codec calls, and this game also has the codec calls. Even though it's an action-packed game that's over the top and super fast, they tend to want to slow you down all the time, which I do not understand. If you ever see a long corridor, it means you're about to have a long codec conversation. It feels like when you just made a great dinner, and then somebody calls you on the phone.
You said your dad was what? He's eaten by the Truckosaurus? That's great. That's really cool.
I know this is just to keep in Metal Gear tradition, and that's cool, but there's probably a more elegant solution. A game like Bayonetta never slows you down in combat, even though it has a lot of story and a lot of cutscenes. And it's not like the codecs are even that relevant to what's going on. The story in these games, like I said before, aren't really important. If you want to know the summary of this story, there's a PMC that's abducting children, harvesting the organs, and making super soldiers out of their brains. Yeah, it's like the next Citizen Kane or whatever, but it only really affects what's going on to you in gameplay terms maybe 1 or 2 times, and barely at that. And the problem is that annoyed me more than it enriched my experience. So really those are my only 2 complaints. If you're okay with the concept of Metal Gear Rising, and you want to get into a game that doesn't take itself too seriously and just have a really fun time, it's a good choice. Honestly, this is probably a good entry-level game for anyone who wants to get into the overtop genre that Bayonetta or Devil May Cry are in. It's worth playing, and it's worth replaying, and most importantly, it's fun. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Adios, amigos. ¿Viste? Qué raro, ¿eh? Hay que hacer que no lo vimos. Vámonos ya.
No, really. Thanks for watching. If you like this, why not leave a like or favorite the video? That would really help us out a lot. If you really, really like it and you want to see more from us, why not subscribe? That would really, really help us. And why not check out a montage or one of our Let's Play series? Why not? Why not just do that? Do you think you're too important? You might be. I don't even know who you are. You could be like the president of some important place. But you should still do it. You want to be re-elected, right?